What if I told you we could bring a species back from the dead? I mean, right now, for real, on this remote island. This is the incredible story of how science, some serious detective work, and, a little bit of historical luck are actually reversing an extinction that happened almost 200 years ago.
For almost 2 whole centuries, the Floreana giant tortoise was just a ghost, right? Nothing more than a memory scribbled in the logbooks of old whalers and the notes of Charles Darwin.
Which, of course, brings us to the biggest question of all. How in the world is this even possible? I mean, how do you reverse an extinction? Well, it turns out the answer involves a genetic ghost, a remote volcano, and honestly, one of the most ambitious restoration projects ever even attempted.
But look, to really appreciate the miracle of their return, you first have to understand the tragedy of how they disappeared. So let's go back in time. We need to investigate the crime scene, because you have to ask, how does an island that was literally teeming with 8,000 giant tortoises end up with zero?
Well, the collapse was just shockingly fast. It all kicks off in 1820 with this catastrophic fire started by the crew of the whaling ship Essex. And yep, that's the very same ship that inspired the story of Moby Dick. After that, over the next decade, whalers took thousands of these tortoises for food. They basically saw them as living, walking food supplies. So by the time Charles Darwin shows up in 1835, the population is already circling the drain. And just 15 years later, poof, they were gone.
And that determination, that never-again mindset, it led scientists to an absolutely incredible discovery. Because the first clue to bringing back the Floreana tortoise, well, it didn't come from Floreana, not at all. It came from the treacherous slopes of an active volcano on a completely different island.
And the first clue was something so simple, the shape of a tortoise's shell. See, on Wolf Volcano, researchers started noticing that some of the tortoises just looked different. The native ones have these domed shells, right? Perfect for eating grass on the ground. But these other alien tortoises had these saddleback shells, a very specific shape, a trait of the extinct Floreana tortoise that lets them stretch their necks up to reach higher plants. So how did they even get there? Well, the best theory we've got is that centuries ago, whalers just tossed their live cargo from Floreana overboard to make room.
Okay, so that visual clue, it kicked off this massive genetic hunt. In 2008, a team went out and sampled over 1,600 tortoises on that volcano, and the DNA results were just stunning. They found 86 individuals that were carrying the genetic ghost of the Floreana tortoise. Some of them were even direct first-generation hybrids. It meant the lost species wasn't totally gone. Its DNA was still out there, alive and well, basically just hiding in plain sight.
And that genetic discovery was everything. It was the key. So scientists launched this incredibly meticulous breeding program.